You're not going to believe this. Luke and I both just got flagged for roughing the passer. Oh, it happened again. It happened again. But before we get to that, we'll also discuss Matt Rhule being ruled out in Charlotte. Yes, it's a twofer for you. We got all that and more on today's episode of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, football fans? And welcome into another episode of Locked On NFL, where I task myself every Tuesday to come up with the worst, best cold open I can to infuriate my lovely
angry
to infuriate my co-host Luke Braun. We are here with you. Thank you very much, as always, for making us your first listen of the day every day here on Locked On NFL. We're your one-stop shop for all the biggest stories around the NFL, National Football League, in less than 30 minutes. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Tuesday, so Luke Braun and I, your Locked On NFL experts, are back together. Luke, I haven't seen you since London. It's been a little bit. So very excited to be able to be here with you today for another episode, which is brought to you today by our friends over at BetOnline. We'll tell you more about them later, but hey, BetOnline's got all that you need in terms of the odds, lines, and props, more than you could ever ask for over at BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Luke, let's start off here with Matt Rhule. Carolina Panthers firing Matt Rhule after an abysmal start to their season, and really an abysmal 38 games where he came out 11-27 during that time. I think it's pretty easy to say that Carolina Panthers made the right decision here.
And if you listen to Julian Council of Locked On Panthers, way too late. And a lot of Panthers people, way too late. It seemed pretty clear that the Matt Rhule thing wasn't working as a coach. He's a college coach. Some people are college coaches. It's way different to coach 19-year-olds than 29-year-olds. It's just different groups of people to lead, maturity-wise and all that. They have different needs, different leadership, and it's a different world in college when you can kind of be, the college coach is something of a revered demigod, and the NFL coach is more a cog in the machine. With a lot of other parts around them. Obviously, that's an oversimplification, but I think that's where Matt Rhule belongs. And it seems, if you look at the BetOnline odds, that's going to be where he heads most of the favorite. I think him ending back up in the NFL is 33-1 for BetOnline. So
yikes.
He's going back to
believe
college.
It's Nebraska, Auburn, and then Wisconsin up at the top, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe
it's right at the top.
So,
yep.
So that didn't work at all, and the Panthers are a lot worse than when he got there. They have some digging out of this to do, and it's been a rough couple of off seasons, weird drafts, weird quarterback stuff. They are in a weird spot, and I think whoever gets there next is going to have some immediate fires to put out and some rebuilding to do. As much as this feels like a rebuilding year for Carolina, it's like a rebuilding year that's begetting more rebuilding years.
Yeah. I think Sean Payton will be fine. He'll be fine in Carolina. It's all going to be okay. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Steve Wilkes, he's got like a 13-game interim tryout here. 12.
Yeah, he's got a big-time audition. That's for sure. The thing that I think worries me about his opportunity here is that, like, he doesn't have the quarterback. I mean, not that Matt Rhule had a quarterback either. Baker Mayfield was awful to start the season, but now Baker Mayfield's injured. You don't have Sam Darnold. You're having to go to PJ Walker, who's technically undefeated as a starter, but not really gonna. That's not gonna.
Roughnecks legend.
Yeah, right. That's not gonna, end up really helping you moving forward, really helping Steve Wilkes' case. So they'll go to the coaching cycle, I think, for sure. I don't think this is going to be like one of those Rich Bisaccia moments where you get like really excited about what the interim did and then disappointed when they go somewhere else. I don't think he's going to get much of an opportunity here.
You don't think the Panthers are going to turn it around and make the playoffs?
Man, listen, if they did, then the only thing I could say is you sign Steve Wilkes to a lifetime contract right now.
Anything's possible in this NFC.
That's true. I mean, we saw for a little while the entire NFC West 2-2 going into the season. NFL record, most teams at 2-2 going into week 5 this season ever. So it was pretty cool to see all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everything's possible within the NFC. Everything's possible within the NFL. But I don't know if I see this one really working out.
No.
We know that Matt Rhule is very likely going to be back to the college ranks. I jokingly talk about Sean Payton, although it's not impossible. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are one of the few teams that are going to be in search of a head coach this offseason at this moment that have a plethora of first-round picks and first-round selections. Do you think that there's another name to watch in terms of the Carolina Panthers head coaching search? Maybe it's DeMeco Ryans, who showed out big time last weekend over the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, you look at the names that were in the cycle before: DeMeco Ryans, Raheem Morris.
Raheem Morris.
Yeah, all of those guys. I think Sean Payton's an interesting one. There's always one or two guys from the college ranks that want to make the leap up, but it also kind of depends. Who's the offensive coordinator in Buffalo right now? Who's getting a ton of good press because Brian Daboll left and the Bills got better. The name is escaping me, but
I got you.
Whoever that is.
It is. Is it Ken Dorsey? No.
Yes,
Ken Dorsey.
No?
Yeah. Ken Dorsey.
Yeah.
I got it.
A lot of really great stuff from Buffalo. Leslie Frazier is another one. Who was, these guys that got interviews.
Yeah,
before.
for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see exactly who gets plugged in over there in an NFC South that's only going to get weaker moving forward, right? Tom Brady, this is probably his last year. The Atlanta Falcons are, they just traded away Deion Jones. They're in a full rebuild mode. If the Saints continue in the trajectory that they're on right now, yes, they got the win this past week against Seattle, but they could be heading for a bit of a retool or rebuild over the course of this offseason as well, as much as their situation will allow them to be. So there's a good opportunity there for a head coach that shows up and maybe, takes on a really good defense there. I talked about DeMeco Ryans last week to the Carolina Panthers is the place that makes sense. You've got Brian Burns. Oh, yeah. You've got Brian Burns there. You've got the young safety in Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, C.J. Henderson, Dante Jackson. Like, you have these really good defensive pieces that are there that you can continue to build on over the course of your time. And then you get somebody that's as creative with all of these schemes and situations like DeMeco Ryans is, that's as aggressive as he is. The guy has a demeanor of a head coach. He has all of that. And I think, it could be a match made in heaven between the two. We have our Locked On Bears host, Lauren Cox, in the chat today. Anything is possible.
Helps to play the Bears.
The Vikings are 4-1.
Helps to play the Bears.
Yeah, for real.
Love to get a freebie. The thing, if I remember the thing with Ryans and the reason he didn't take jobs, because he was one of the finalists for the Vikings job. And if I remember, he didn't do the final interview. He felt a little bit like, I want another year.
Yeah.
Like he didn't feel ready, which is super fair. That I might be misremembering that. You'd have to ask the Locked On 49ers guys for sure. But that's what I recall from that. But either way, maybe Carolina can turn the page and start to build something real again, because right now they are anything but.
Anything but. They do not rule, as you would say. If you want more potential Rhule puns and information on Matt Rhule, who's going to be the next Carolina Panthers head coach, which you need to know about Steve Wilkes, make sure you're checking out the Locked On Panthers podcast, hosted by Julian Council, available free in all platforms, as well as YouTube, every single Monday through Friday. Coming up next, we're going to dive into this Monday Night Football game. The Kansas City Chiefs pull off a thriller, but was it the 2-point conversion decisions that decided this one? And NFL officiating is horrible. We'll get to all of that as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On NFL. But before we get there, I have the great pleasure to tell you about our friends over at Tommy John. Now, I'm not talking about the surgery. That would be weird. What I'm talking about instead are your pants.
Our friends, the pitcher injury.
Yes. Our friends, the pitcher procedure. No, we're talking about your pants, y'all. We're talking about your pants. You got to be ready for everything. And to be ready for everything, you need underwear that can handle everything. That's why it's time for you to check out Tommy John underwear. Tommy John underwear, you're that much comfortable that you can do anything Better. I have a story to go with this. I wore a pair of Tommy John underwear not too long ago. I have a lot of Tommy John stuff. I've got underwear, I've got sleep pants. I've also got a sleep shirt, like a sleep thermal. That's really nice.
Okay.
I put on the underwear for the first time, jumped over a building. Can't tell me it's not true. So make sure you go and check out Tommy John, because you're not going to be able to name a better pair of underwear out there. And if you can, you're lying. You're an absolute liar. With over 17 million pairs sold. People love Tommy John underwear, and that's why Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have fanatics like myself jumping over buildings. Plus, everything is backed by Tommy John's best pair that you'll ever wear. It's free guarantee. Go to TommyJohn.com/lockedon right now so you can get 25% off of your first order. That's 25% off at TommyJohn.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON. Once again, that's TommyJohn, TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. All right, everybody, continuing on with this episode of Locked On NFL. It's Tuesday here, so we're going to be chatting about some Monday Night Football, but don't forget to go and check out NFL key predictions as well right here on the Locked On NFL feed. Whether you're listening on the podcast side or you're watching on YouTube, you're going to be able to get every single Friday all the stories, the biggest things that you need to know from all the local experts covering the 5 biggest games of the week, and all of the betting analysis that you need from the leaders in betting at BetOnline, who we'll tell you a little bit more about a little bit later. Once again, that is right here on the Locked On NFL YouTube page, Locked On NFL podcast, wherever you take it in every single Friday, NFL key predictions. Luke, it feels like 2-point conversions are just becoming more and more and more a part of the game every single week.
For sure.
Was that the deciding factor in what was a really exciting Monday Night Football game?
No, the deciding factor was Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams running into each other downfield on a 4th and 1 that you decided to throw a bomb on. Like, I don't know. That's a wild decision and a wild play call, because that was like, sometimes you call a regular play and then there's like an alert or somebody busts a coverage and you go deep on that. No, that seemed like it was like a shot play.
No, yeah, they called that.
Yeah, bonkers. But the 2-point conversions, I think it's really hard to get people to like think probabilistically about them. So I went back and forth with a couple people on Twitter about it too. I like the decision on both sides to go for 2 points. The Chiefs are up 7, kick an extra point to go up 8, or go for 2 to make it a true 2-score game.
Easy
Analytics
choice.
Usually doesn't like going for it there. They will see, I think of like being up 8 is up like a score and a half, because getting that 2-point conversion pretty hard. It's a 50-50 shot. So it's kind of like being up a score and a half. And so they say like, yeah, extra point to be up a score and a half usually is going to be better than a 50-50 chance to be up 2 scores. I don't mind it in a game like that, because if you kick the extra point, then give up a touchdown, the Raiders are going for a 2-point conversion. And the alternative to me is either I'm going for one with Patrick Mahomes, or I'm trying to defend one against an offense that has now put up 30 on me.
Right.
I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes, right?
100%.
Might be different if I've got a struggling offense or something. And that's going to be where that calculus is to me. The Raiders going for it, to me, it's the same decision as if you did it at the end of the game. They had 4.5 minutes left, but with like more cushion, because you have a little bit of time. You can get a stop, go down, try to have a field goal drive, right? Their field goal drive didn't work, but the fact that they had that opportunity feeds into the decision. But without that, it's kind of functionally turns out the same. You are down a touchdown, you score, you're down 29-30, and let's say there's 2 seconds left. Well, some coaches will go for it because they like their chances better on that one play than they do to stop Patrick Mahomes in overtime, right? That, or be down to a coin flip to stop Patrick Mahomes in overtime. So I get it. I am really sympathetic to it. And I honestly, the way, like when you're in a game like that where both offenses are humming, I want the game in the hands of mine, not in the hands of yours. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think that, like, we've seen this decision made at the end of games before. We've seen the Raiders do it before. The Raiders did it against the Saints back in like 2015. I think Jack Del Rio was the coach at the time. And it was like the opening week of the season. They go to Michael Crabtree in the back of the end zone on a 2-point conversion, and that ends up winning them the game. So we've seen it work with this very same franchise the opposite way. And everybody said it was a genius play call. I don't think that there's anything here that's much different from Josh McDaniels. I do think, though, that if you look at 4th and 1 and say, you know what no one will expect us to do? Take a shot downfield. So let's draw up a shot play. There's a reason why no one expects you to do that, Josh, because it's the wrong choice. So like,
bad idea.
It's a bad idea, man. And so like, I think of that one as of greater detriment than that play calling decision, if you want to harp on one, as a different or as a greater detriment than the coaching decision of going for 2 with 4 minutes left. I also think that, like, look, you get down the field and, Devontae Adams secures that catch as opposed to bobbling it before he gets the second foot down, which was a big sort of stink at the end of the game as well. Took a lot of time to like look that over and make sure that they got that right. Like that's another one too, to where like you actually executed everything you needed to execute. You just had one of the better receivers in the NFL bobble the ball for half a second, and that's what it takes in the NFL to be the difference between not attempting a field goal and attempting a field goal. And unfortunately, that just didn't bounce the right way for them. And
too often with these 2-point decisions, it happens every time. If you go for a 2-point and you don't get it, and it turns out to matter, what you'll always hear is the comparison of what happened versus an extra point, not what happened versus what could have happened if you got it right.
Good point. Yeah.
A lot of, well, now they were behind and the Chiefs could just kneel it instead of going for the field goal. Well, if they had gotten the 2
right,
the Chiefs wouldn't have been able to, run the ball and play clock. They would have had to play defense differently. It would have been way harder if you got it. Right. So you're not really comparing it to you have to compare the middle between getting it and not getting it, whatever you think the middle of that is, if you want to call it a 50-50 shot, which the percentages are a little lower, but whatever. You compare the average of those to going for the extra point. You can't compare the worst outcome with the extra point. that would be like comparing going for it with, well, what if you go miss the extra point? Like, it'd be totally unfair. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we see that sometimes too in a different conversation. I mean, you look at the Baltimore Ravens a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they're going for 4th down. Same idea.
Yeah, right. And what are you comparing the Lamar Jackson interception to? You're not comparing it oftentimes to if they actually score the touchdown. You're comparing it to, well, what if they would have taken a field goal instead? That's so often what you hear a lot of the talking heads and pundits, and here we are as talking heads, doing, that's what you hear a lot of those like conversations and comparisons being, when really I liked Lauren Cox's point from Locked On Bears when he was here with Locked On NFL last week, where he spoke about like, yeah, look, if you're going to give me the opportunity to put the ball in the hands of my MVP caliber quarterback, I'm going to do that every single time. That's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs did today with Patrick Mahomes, that 2-point conversion, as you described. Not necessarily what Josh McDaniels did with Derek Carr, but you get the idea. Like, it's the same thing. Like, just like you said, if we've got all these offenses in their
Patrick
humming.
Mahomes' hands.
Right. Good point. Yeah. So you're playing the exact counter to that, right? You're saying, I'm going to take control of this game, as opposed to giving this guy the opportunity to, go to overtime and then take it, put it back in his hands. So if you have the option here of taking the lead and getting a potential win off of it because your offense is in a better situation, or your offense is going well, which both offenses I thought were kind of off and firing after the first half, really after the first quarter. I mean, Travis Kelce, just scored another touchdown. Like, the guys, it was like outstanding, these guys. So
won you your fantasy game for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, imagine everybody that started the tight end tandem this week of Travis Kelce and Taysom Hill, and how very, very happy they are. All one of you.
Nobody's letting you do tight end Taysom Hill.
Hey, Sleeper lets me use him as my flex and as my tight end. And
here's what I'll say for the Raiders, because I know Raiders fans are going to be mad. They look better than 1-4, man. This is the only Raiders game I've seen, so maybe this was different than the other games. But just going off of this one, they look better than 1-4, and that means there might be a turnaround in them. 1-4 is a pretty hard hole to dig out of, especially in that division. But hey, the Broncos are a catastrophe, so at least that's not as hard as you thought. Yeah. And they look, but there's more to hang your hat on there, right? Whether or not you make the playoffs this year, first year of a new head coach, there's more to hang your hat on there. And I don't think it needs to all be doom and gloom, but it may have all been doom and gloom for the Chiefs when they were down 17-0 in this one, made the comeback to go all the way back, make this game close all the way. And here's the deal. BetOnline.net is your one-stop shop for all things sports betting. You can bet on games, spreads, player props, all that good stuff. My favorite thing is the live betting, because when the Chiefs go down 17-0 against the Raiders, it is all but a foregone conclusion that they will come back. It's the Chiefs. They are as inevitable as Thanos. So you can maybe go on to BetOnline, go to their live betting module, and just watch. Just wait and see if you can catch that peak. I got in on them at plus 210. And I got a spread bet on them earlier in the game as well. Won all of that. That is the kind of fun thing you can do at betonline.net. You can bet on all kinds of other sports as well. There's all sorts of variety. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Look, Ron out here just casually bragging about like rigging the system, taking advantage of the system over with the live betting.
It's so much more fun to live bet. I feel it's just, it's awesome. Like I love just like watch. It's like you're watching a stock market.
The stock
Does that make me sound cool?
No. Yes. So cool. But did I say no first?
Am I cooler?
I'm sorry.
Am I cooler than a referee?
Yes, you are. And speaking of, we appreciate y'all very much as always. Make it Locked On NFL your first listen of the day every day. Make sure you're also checking out your favorite Locked On local shows as well. Locked On Vikings, Locked On Saints, just to throw a couple out there. We do this every week, Luke. We take a look in our final sort of moments of the show, the biggest yike of the week. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy to say there's two pretty clear ones. So usually you pick one, I pick one, but I think we're on the same page in terms of what these are. So let's just break them down individually. And let's start off with NFL officiating here, because roughing the passer and NFL officiating had such a bad week that Matt Rhule got fired and probably had a better weekend. It's been that bad. Tom Brady's...
Matt Rhule's getting $40 million to chill.
He's doing fine.
Yeah. NFL officiating is gonna have to worry about threats to their home.
Yeah, some of these guys are gonna lose their part-time job out here. So, it's like the thing that's the problem.
Oh no, my 20 hours a week.
The problem with NFL officiating is not a new one, right? I think you and I can both speak from very educated sides on all of this. It's been a problem for
Never
a
seen
while.
blown pass interference calls in my life. Never once in a particular stadium.
Right. But this roughing the passer thing it's bad. Like it's down bad. Like it's really, really upsetting, because you have like Grady Jarrett grabbing and wrapping up Tom Brady and literally like sitting him on his lap and rolling him over. An
Asking
NFL
him what he wants for Christmas.
Right. Like an NFL media person that I spoke to about this said, Grady Jarrett sacked Tom Brady the way that I would want him to catch my newborn baby if I dropped it. And he got a flag for roughing the passer. Like, who was the passer and where was the rough, NFL? And Jerome Boger was asked about it after. Yeah, I'm coming for you, buddy, by name. Was asked afterwards in a pool report about it. He just described a sack. Like, that's all that he did.
It's a lot rougher when the quarterback still has the ball and it's a sack, because when you see any other tackle, it's get him down however you can. And a sack, there's like rules to how you can and can't get him down. Yeah. And especially with bigger players, which are less common in the league today. But think about like a Carson Wentz, right? A bigger player that might be able to get out of that grasp. If you're trying to be like too careful about how you lay him down, it seems like, well, what are defenders supposed to do? That particular, there is a rule for like that kind of grab and slam them down. If you're suplexing, you're slamming a quarterback down with additional force, that is roughing the passer, and it should be. There's a reason for that. This is not an example of that. A better example of that happened in Monday night to Patrick Mahomes and went unflagged. I can only assume he's not old enough to get that call.
Yeah, like what's the threshold here for NFL officiating to actually make this call.
27, 26
Gotta be.
years
It's
old?
gotta be. Yeah. Maybe it's the 30s. I could get that call. You know. Well, I don't know. Maybe I won't. That's a good point. It's a good question. Maybe I couldn't get that call, Luke. That's a very good question.
Depends on what they mean by old.
Yeah. The other one that we saw was Chris Jones, who took the ball away from Derek Carr and got called for roughing the passer when Derek Carr didn't even have the ball in his hands anymore. Right. And I get that maybe they were doing like the body weight thing.
Body weight rule.
Yeah. But that didn't. I mean, he put the left hand down. He kind of got the hand down there. You saw that there was no intent of further injury, no intent of excessive force, anything like that. And again, he had the ball in his hands before that's the other piece to me is like, should that have just been tacked on to the end of the turnover? Basically, like Chiefs get possession, but they get backed up because of unnecessary roughness because he took the ball away before the penalty would have happened.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I could see that being a possible solution for that particular situation, although it's a little niche and it doesn't drive at the crux of the problem, which is that body weight thing probably shouldn't be a foul unless there's something egregious.
Right.
That's where it is to me. And that has been a rule since Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone, happened in US Bank Stadium. And that has been a rule ever since. And to prevent that exact kind of injury, and that's a noble cause. Let's try to prevent that kind of injury. But you're asking a 350-pound guy to contort himself and roll off in midair?
Right.
An intent here, and you're driving somebody really down, and you're really slamming them. Like, I think there needs to be more emphasis on, are you really being needlessly physical here versus did you come down at the wrong angle? You're not going to have any control over that. These are split-second moments. And the bracing thing, which is part of the text of the rule, I guess, of roughing the passer.
Yep.
If you see the quarterback brace with his arm, that's where it gets dangerous, and so that's where you do the foul. But that's something that I, along with most of the watching public, I would imagine, learned about today.
I don't like it.
Be part of it.
Yeah.
That feels like it gives the quarterback control over whether or not there's a penalty on him. Right. That's what it feels like.
I just stick my hand in the dirt on my way down, and
oops, your sack is now a 15-yard penalty, first down us. That feels like something a little too exploitable. Not that Derek Carr did, but he could have. And if you're fast enough about it, or if you can fight it for long enough to go down the right way, like, is that going to be the world we start living in? I don't know. I feel like it just wasn't a physical enough play to warrant that. And I feel like although it introduces a layer of subjectivity, I would rather have a layer of subjectivity than an objective rule that often goes against the spirit of roughing the passer.
Right. Yeah, completely agree. These referees in the NFL, first of all, like, NFL officiating, seriously, like, employ these people. Like, make them full-time employees, get this right, find some way to establish some accountability, everything like that. Because like right now there's
give them a reason to care.
Like right now, like there's just no accountability at all when it comes to this kind of stuff. And we see that week in and week out. And it's kind of ruining the NFL brand. I mean, it's the one thing that gets complained about every single week. And I understand the NFL is also trying to play catch up on the concussion protocols and things like that. And so there might be penalties that are more sensitive because that's the only thing that the NFL is actually willing to adjust, or the things that have human error attached to them, because it's easier to excuse those mistakes. But you're ruining it, man. You're ruining it at this point. Okay, next big yike of the week to wrap us up. Luke, why don't I let you take this one? Because I know it's Matt Rhule, but it's something very specific about Matt Rhule.
Yeah, so yike number one, officials. Yike number two goes to Matt Rhule for micromanaging his social media team.
Oh, the social media team.
Look, I can't say that I am free of sin. I've been part of a social media team before. I've had similar jobs, and I've dealt with micromanagers at that jobs with big enough names that you can't really argue with them. Mm-hmm. That's awful. TNP, thoughts and prayers to the Carolina Panthers social media team. I'm glad you're out from under this. F's in the chat. that you're the head football coach. What are you doing? What are you in that room for? You shouldn't care at all. Like, it's one thing, like the football side wants to have control over like the social media side to make sure they're not like divulging the wrong thing or to make sure they don't show a clip that reveals too much or something like that. That's one thing. But it sounds as though he was actually like heavily involved in that. And it kind of makes sense as Matt Rhule, who thought it was of himself as like a culture guy. Yeah. Of like, we're going to, the way that we present ourselves is part of our culture as well. So I'm going to be involved in it. And it's like, go to a college if you just want carte blanche to yell at whoever you want. Go to Nebraska. Nobody cares about you there. Like, that's a black hole that you can disappear into.
Yeah, it's been a really, really rough, it's been a really, really rough transition to the NFL for Matt Rhule from the collegiate ranks. And I don't just mean that by, a bad record or anything like that. Like, that just simply...
Not made for the pros.
Yeah, it just feels like everything kind of went wrong there. So yeah, Scott Frost is out in Nebraska. Now you had an opportunity. Head over to Nebraska.
And defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator in Carolina out.
That's right. Yeah. So
total clearing of the house. Lots of interim names for the last 3 quarters of the season.
Woof. Boy, that's gonna be some bad football in Charlotte. I mean, it already was. It already was some bad football in Charlotte. Imagine losing to that Carolina Panthers team.
Couldn't be my team yet. Do they play them? Uh-oh.
Yikes. Yeah, be careful now. Be careful.
Let's get out of here before I say anything else is going to get me in trouble.
Steve Wilkes and and PJ Walker, they're coming for you, Luke.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was another fun episode here at Locked On NFL. We will be back with you for more tomorrow, but of course, you'll catch Luke and I here every Tuesday. I almost said Tuesday and Thursday. That's literally never been a thing. We've only ever been here on Tuesday.
I did a Thursday a couple weeks ago.
There you go. That might be what I'm thinking of. But we appreciate y'all very much for being here. Jono Barnes, my guy, says, great show, guys. Good show, guys. I appreciate it. See how I elevated the compliment a little bit? I said, great show, guys.
Yes. At least one person enjoyed it.
We're so grateful. All right. We will see y'all again here soon. We appreciate you very much for coming through. Make sure you make your second listen today, the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Be back with Tony and James tomorrow here for Wednesday's Locked On NFL, as I'm sure they'll continue to carry Matt Rhule and probably more weirdness around his social media or something like that here throughout the rest of the week. So make sure you're tuning in all throughout the week, making us your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.